Get your hand out my pocket, man. Look at me when I'm talking to you. I see, yo, I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing, man. I see what you're doing. Nah, look at me, man. I see what you're doing, man. Yeah, you gonna make me. Okay, I'm telling y'all right now, when I want to work for Diddy, I'm gonna physically put my hands on somebody for the ratings. Because he's not gonna outdo me.
50 Cent hates Diddy. If you don't know this, then you probably live under a rock. And in the past months, with news of his history of abuse taking front and center of the media, Diddy's entire life has come under serious fire. More specifically, his abuse of Cassie has placed everything he has built in serious danger. But just when Diddy thought it couldn't get any worse, his arch nemesis joined the ship. 50 Cent has taken it on himself to expose Diddy for abusing Cassie and everyone else unfortunate to cross Brother Love's path. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you just how deep the hole 50 has dug for Diddy, Cassie's case against the fallen media mogul, and why 50 hates Brother Love so much. Let's dive in. Cassie's biggest mistake.
What you gotta say now? What you gotta say now? You ain't got shit to say.
If you're not familiar with this footage that 50 Cent shared on his IG, that is Cassie hiding under the blanket, scared out of her mind of Diddy. At that point, the man had been abusing her for years, and these were the last few moments before she decided she had had enough. But why would 50 share it? Why would he dig his legs into his case that really has nothing to do with him directly? Or maybe we're not asking the question correctly. Maybe what we should be asking is, what 50 stands to gain? Well, we'll get to that in a second, because talking 50 without addressing what the Diddy allegation is going to make this video really confusing. Word on the street for the longest is that Diddy's sexuality swings both ways, and that with new artists, he'd always wanted to get into they pants before he offered them anything. Funny enough, the same story goes that this was the case with Diddy and 50, and that he tried to get funky with 50 at the jump of his career, tried to take him out shopping.
Stop. Then he was like, so when we gonna get the chance to, to kick it, like we could just hang out? We gotta kick it.
This is
Paul.
Okay.
He telling me we gotta kick it, and he was like, why don't we go shopping or something? I mean, I pay for it. And I was like, what the f this nigga just say?
It's funny because that's almost the kind of same circumstances that led to Diddy meeting Cassie. And while 50 had the means and mettle to stay away from Diddy from that suspect encounter, Cassie had neither. She wasn't street. She was a little girl from Connecticut who had big dreams of becoming a star. She was 19 when she got into New York, and her eventual connection with Diddy was a direct result of an initial connection with producer Ryan Leslie. In fact, Ryan was her boyfriend at the time. They created the song Me and You that was posted on her MySpace page. Eventually, she was connected with Diddy, and he took an interest in her and took it upon himself to take her under his wing, including signing her to Bad Boy Records. But the truth is, it wasn't that clean. Diddy was manipulative from the very beginning in a way that indirectly forced Cassie to comply with his demands and wishes. Truth is, when Diddy decided to sign Cassie, he got her on an unprecedented 10-album deal. It's crazy when you consider that at the time, Cassie was unproven. She could hardly sing, she had zero stage presence, and she wasn't particularly some brilliant songwriter. She hadn't even released a single. The only thing Cassie had going for her was her dance skills and her looks. And to be quite frank, the woman was finer than she could dance. So that offer was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that she knew she didn't deserve and probably felt that she shouldn't blow. What she didn't know was that it was a carrot that Diddy was hanging in front of her because he had diabolical intentions for the young woman. He wanted her. He lusted after and decided to love bomb her with an unrealistic record deal and attention. At that point, she was nothing more than something he wanted to own. And before you come for Cassie in defense of Diddy, you must remember that she was just 19 at the time. Might be an adult under the law, but ask most parents. A 19-year-old is still a kid. Which makes this entire issue even more complex is that Cassie was truly alone in New York. Neither her parents or her family had followed her to the city, so there wasn't really anyone to guide her. And if you're asking, what about her boyfriend Ryan Leslie? Well, I'd answer, what about him? The man wasn't nearly as rich or nearly as powerful as Diddy, so there was no way he could stand up to the man. So Diddy took his girl. This is where it began. This was the beginning of hell for Cassie, the very start of Cassie's biggest mistake. Before he started calling himself Brother Love and any iteration of the word love the man has pulled out of his since the endemic, Diddy was no different than a pimp. He had the promiscuity of one, he talked like one, and he handled Cassie like one. After the disastrous BET performance that Cassie did where the world was introduced to just how terrible she was on stage, Diddy came to her defense. But it was not really a defense now, was it? It felt like he was scolding her on air. She looked anxious on stage, and why wouldn't she be? The woman was undercooked. Her first first ever album was released under Bad Boy, and although her songs were doing well, she did get backlash because her performances, especially that BT performance, was really bad. So when Diddy came to defend her, it didn't look like a defense, it sounded like a pimp making excuses for one of his girls. It's crazy I say this because at that time, Diddy was on her neck. The man wanted to sleep with her, and that's why he was showing her so much favoritism. Cassie says she wanted to keep it professional, but then, at the same time, she was scared that she would miss out on the golden opportunity of a career that Diddy had promised her. This was a similar kind of golden opportunity that had gotten Diddy to start that cursed talent show, Making the Band. At the end of the day, there was no band, even though there was clearly talent amongst the girls that Diddy mentally abused. Truth is, and always has been, the only star that Diddy can bear to have in his inner circle is himself. So did anyone really think he was going to make a star out of Cassie? Carl Thomas, Mace, Shine, Faith, these are a drop in the bucket of superstars that Diddy has wasted since the 90s. But at least, all he did with them was waste their careers. It's bad, all right, but they could always pick up the pieces of what was left. With Cassie, Diddy was about to waste her life. Like I said before, Diddy got Ryan Leslie out of the picture somehow, either through threats or some other form of trademark intimidation tactics. Whatever it was, one minute Cassie was hand in hand with Ryan on the streets of Manhattan, the next, she was in Diddy's penthouse. Diddy was 37 at the time, a 37-year-old man going after a 19-year-old. No one could understand how or what he wanted, or maybe they were faking confusion because it was clear what he wanted. He wanted to control her. Diddy wanted to own and control Cassie, and he did. First with money, Diddy had been a millionaire since he was 19, and he had been hosting parties for longer. You can bet the man knows how to use money to manipulate and control people. With Cassie, it was way easier. She wanted something he had the power to give, a successful career, and she wanted something he wanted, her entire life. Not a fair exchange by any measure. But I don't blame the woman. The person I blame is Diddy, who, at the time, was with another woman he was abusing, Kim Porter, the mother of his child, and a woman he had come to own and control over the years leading up to that point. Cassie was about to become another Kim, and it was about to become very, very ugly. The abusive relationships.
My chief of staff, Christina Coram, KK, Lorianne Gibson, keeping me free. Yeah, and also Cassie for holding me down in the dark times. Love.
This speech at Diddy's BET Lifetime Achievement Award had got to go down as one of the greatest villain moments in history. The man was thanking Cassie, who at that time had left him and was now married with someone that actually cared for her. Diddy called her on stage thanking her. And for what exactly? Mind you, at that time, Diddy was with Young Miami, and there was no reason why he needed to call Cassie. In fact, many would say it was straight up disrespectful considering he didn't mention Kim Porter or Miami's name on that stage. So again, why did he do it? Well, once again, and like I said before, it is simple. Control. And this is after Cassie had escaped him. So imagine the atrocities he did to the woman when she was with him. Well, you don't have to because we got time and I got all of the details right here. Let's go back to 2007. At the time, Cassie was still with Ryan, and this was the first time she would come to see the lengths Diddy would go to get what he wanted, whoever he wanted. Back then, Diddy had paid a promoter to create a fake booking gig in Miami so he could get Cassie away from her boyfriend and so that she could spend time with him. Cassie was bothered, but Diddy was persistent, and like I said before, he had her career hanging in the balance. If she made the wrong decision, it was gone. Eventually, Diddy got her an apartment in Manhattan, which you can consider a nice gesture, but this apartment was walking distance from his New York residence. Another control move. The man wanted to have his eyes on her at all times, but he was even more diabolical because he flew in her parents to see the apartment with her. Did they know what this meant? Did they see the signs of a controlling man literally trying to buy their daughter from them? It's unclear, and we can't jump to conclusions about nothing. That would be disrespectful. What we can say for certain was this: Diddy was playing a game of manipulation, and he was getting his way because Cassie's parents were satisfied and probably impressed enough to give all of that their blessing. A 37-year-old man and a 19-year-old. I don't know if y'all remember, but it's not too different from the whole Kimora Lee and Russell Simmons incident where Kimora was just 17 and Russell was 35, and her parents practically gave her away to him. There's a conversation to be had there about the nature of it all, about parents giving their daughters to powerful men just because. And this is knowing that a man that mature without a wife most likely wouldn't be the healthiest fit for your daughter's future. But hey, he got the bands, right? What happened next wasn't too surprising. Diddy went from being manipulative to becoming demanding, abusive, and violent on Cassie. It get ugly from here on out. There were a lot of incidents, and many of them are spelt out in her lawsuit against Diddy that they since settled for $30 million. But I'll spell some of them out. One of the earliest incidents happened in a club, and it was young Jock that narrated it to Vlad. Jock says Diddy randomly saw a white woman with her hair shaved on the side, and Diddy turned to Cassie Cassie that he wanted her to do the same. He told her, yo, Cassie, tomorrow I want you to shave the side of your head. It seemed like a crazy request to Jock, and when he asked Cassie if she was really gonna do it, the singer responded, whatever Sean wants. But this was just on the surface, because behind the scenes, Diddy was drugging her up. Before Diddy, she had never done pills, and she wouldn't be the first woman that Diddy would drug up. Very recently, a woman named Joy Dickerson Neal claimed that Diddy had not only drugged her up back in 1991, but he had also assaulted her. She said she had gone on a date with him. He had spiked something she took, and he had then driven her to the music studio where she couldn't walk. It was after that he had assaulted her, but it got worse because he had also filmed the assault, and he had sent the sex tape of the two of them to some of his homies. She knows this because Devontae Swing, a member of the R&B group Jodeci, had told her. Dickerson couldn't tell the police because she was ashamed and didn't want to lose a record deal that Diddy had promised her. And she would eventually drop out of college because she had begun fantasizing off in herself. Y'all remember this 3 a.m. ad? The over-the-top sexual ad for a cologne that was really just a sex tape featuring Cassie and Diddy back in 2015. Well, that was the one we got to see. And while Diddy, in his twisted psyche, showed Cassie bare it all for the world, he had more damning tapes he was using to hold her down in a relationship she no longer wanted to have anything to do with. When she did that 3 a.m. ad, Cassie was his sex slave and nothing else. Cassie had become engulfed in the relationship with Diddy out of fear and complacency. Her being constantly fueled with drugs was taking a toll on her. And to make her life more hellish, she was constantly being watched by his team. You want to destroy someone, strip them of their dignity, and do it while they're still young. That's what Diddy had done to Cassie, but it didn't stop there. Remember, I said that Diddy was no better than a pimp? Well, in the lawsuit, Cassie recounts the countless times Diddy would beat her and would have her go stay at hotels or apartments to let the bruises heal before she stepped out into the world again. She even recalled an instance where after partying with Jay-Z, Diddy went into a fit of rage and repeatedly beat and stomped on her in an escalade to the point of tears. Truth was, he was jealous. When they went to parties, if she didn't stay by herself or by his side, he would beat her blue-black when they got home. There was even one incident when her career was on a steep decline. She decided to speak to a music manager to help her career out. Diddy found out, and he beat her so bad in the vehicle that night, Diddy's bodyguard had to intervene. And this was a first, because most times when Diddy was dishing out violence on Cassie, his crew looked away. They didn't speak up, intervene, or defend her. And that's because everyone in Diddy's circle was a yes man. They all did what Diddy paid them to do, and nothing else. They saw the abuse firsthand and said nothing. They knew Cassie wasn't the first, and she wouldn't be the last. This had been Kim Porter's living, breathing existence long before Cassie got into the picture. A story goes that Diddy allegedly found out that Kim Porter was cheating on him with former Def Jam Vice President Shakir Stewart. Diddy flew Kim out to what she thought was a romantic getaway on a yacht, but it turned out it was a setup, because the moment they were alone in the middle of nowhere, Diddy beat her bloody. It was so bad that he broke her nose in the process. Then he flew in a plastic surgeon to reconstruct her nose and made sure she'd healed considerably before she was seen in public. Any image you see of Kim Porter with a band-aid on her nose tells that story, and while I don't think there's anyone in their right mind that would blame Kim for the incident, let me just say for the record, Diddy had drained the life out of her at that point. Her fling with Shakir was necessitated by his deeply manipulative behavior. And you know Diddy, he threw a chair at Shakir at one point. Fast forward, and Shakir winds up dead with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. But we are not done with the Cassie debacle just yet. In the lawsuit, Cassie would also state that Diddy had forced her to sleep with male prostitutes while he masturbated to them. She also stated that she was tasked with finding those male hookers and that he drugged her when she was about to do the act before filming her and the hookers. Yes, it was sick. And it was these tapes that Diddy used to hold Cassie captive whenever she tried to leave. I'll say it again for those in the back. The man had turned the bright-eyed 19-year-old Connecticut girl into a sex slave that existed solely for his pleasure. Now, on top of all of that, Diddy would also ensure that everything in her life, down to her visits to the doctor and medical records, were emailed to him. He watched everything, saw everything, and ensured that nothing in her life escaped his scrutiny. She was in hell for a decade, walking on eggshells around him and hoping to God that he would lose interest in her at some point so that she could escape the trap of a life he had set for her, because she knew that was the only way she would escape him. He had to be done with her. Well, that opportunity came, and she eventually left him for her personal trainer, who had, over the years, helped her sort through her trauma, supported her, and helped her get out of Diddy's grasp. But then Diddy requested to see her, and she invited him to her own house, refusing to go to his own. When they were alone, Cassie says Diddy forced himself on her and assaulted her. This is not too different from what he did to Kim, and the only reason why he got away with all of this for so long was because he was rich, protected, had a lot of connections, and as a direct result had become untouchable. But all of that's coming to an end, and it has little to do with Cassie's lawsuit and more to do with 50 Cent's vendetta against him. 50 has his foot on Diddy's neck, and he has been doubling the pressure with every damning news the press has released about Brother Love. But hey, there's no love lost. Truth is 50 never with Diddy, and he'll be the first to tell you their current situation is just an opportunity for business. What kind of business, you ask? You're about to find out. Don't mess with 50.
I asked 50 about that, and he said you did the same thing to him. You asked him to take him shopping.
Yeah, I thought he needed some clothes. What? I'm a nice guy.
Yo, why are you and 50?
Hey, yo.
Why y'all not?
Hey, yo, I don't have no beef with.
Instagram has been on fire ever since Cassie dropped the lawsuit, and the man fanning the fame has been none other than 50 Cent. And I've heard a lot of theories, a lot of videos talking about how 50 is trying to bring down Diddy because of a shopping incident from the early 2000s. Half right. 50 is trying to bring him down all right, but it has nothing to do with no shopping incident. Rick Ross didn't try any shopping incident on 50 before he came for him. Madonna is another victim on 50's hit list, Fat Joe and a couple of others. Truth is, there are a lot of people in the industry that 50 wouldn't break sweat on, and Diddy is no different. In fact, he's been drawing blood since his second album, The Massacre. And on a track called The Bomb, 50 Cent went in on Diddy, accusing him of being responsible for the death of Biggie and being a studio gangster. He even questioned the man's authenticity in the industry. 50 Cent had declared war on Diddy a long time ago. And on a different front that had very little to do with the shopping, Diddy has never been one to say anything back to 50. In fact, in the moments where he did speak up, he dismissed the accusations, calling them baseless, and claiming that 50 Cent was simply trying to generate buzz for albums he was trying to release at the time. This is true. In fact, this is all of the truth, because 50 is no longer bothered about albums anymore. He's all about climbing the ranks to become a media mogul, and that's one thing Diddy has been for a long time. So all of this drama, all of this madness is really a move by 50 to strip that title from Diddy and crown himself king. They say you don't beat a man when he's down. Well, 50 never heard that, and if he did, he clearly ain't following it. You see, 50 Cent wants his hands on Revolt. People thought he was joking when he posted this on his gram calling for Diddy to sell Revolt to him. But I'm here to tell you to wake up, because it's real. The man might joke around about many things, but he don't joke about his business even when he's playing. But hey, you say then why is 50 coming after the sponsors of Diddy's company? Why'd he put pressure on them, causing Cadillac and AT&T to withdraw? Again, it's simple. It's a crude but efficient devaluation tactic that would see Revolt drop in price and become dirt cheap when 50 decides to buy it, if Diddy chooses to sell it. 50 Cent is currently leveraging his fame, his popularity, his status as not only a hip-hop OG, but a pop culture heavyweight to run Diddy to the ground. And that's why every other business day a post is dedicated to brother love. This way he never leaves the news. This way investors that are still in bed with him will hop out and zip up. You might look at this and say, but shouldn't blacks watch out for blacks? I'll say to you, do you think Diddy would extend the courtesy to you if you considered him? 50 himself said it, anyone who stands by Diddy is on a destination to nowhere. You can't even say he lying, because this ain't nothing but the truth. We talked about it earlier already. At the end of the day, the real questions come two-phase. The first one being, will Diddy sell? And the second, at what point will 50 tap out? Frankly, I don't think Diddy would sell to 50. The only scenario where I see that happening is if Diddy finds himself so dead financially and Revolt becoming a virus no one wants to touch. And at that point, I don't think even 50 would want to touch it either. But never say never, because 50 is petty. And that leads us to the answer for the second question. Will 50 tap out anytime soon? Will he lift his foot off Diddy's neck? My bet, no and no. Truth is, 50 Cent has consistently hated Diddy for the past 2 decades. He really doesn't see him as a character that should still be running the show. And if there was any doubt, 50's plan for a documentary called Surviving Diddy will most definitely be the final nail in the media mogul's coffin. It's in the fine print. If you enjoyed this expose, click on a video on your screen to watch even more interesting mini documentaries like this one, and I'll see you there.